The necklace shattered against the cold, hard floor, its pieces scattering like broken memories. Everyone froze. It wasn't just any necklace. It was her mother's. The only thing she had left. And now, it lay in ruins at the feet of the very girls who had laughed as they ripped it from her neck. Arya stood in stunned silence, the world around her dissolving into a muted blur. Her breath caught, her hands trembled, and her heart cracked. The sounds of laughter echoed in her ears, mocking, cruel, triumphant. 3 girls stood in front of her, smirking. Madison, Tori, and Rachel, popular, rich, untouchable. They had been picking on Arya for months. But this time, they went too far. Arya wasn't like them. She didn't care about expensive shoes or weekend parties. She was quiet, kept to herself, and wore a simple silver necklace every day, a locket that had once belonged to her mom. Her mom, who had passed away from cancer 2 years ago. That necklace was her heartbeat, her anchor, her last thread to the woman who had raised her with kindness and courage. "Oops," Madison said, feigning innocence. Didn't know that junk meant so much. Tears welled in Arya's eyes, but she didn't cry. Not yet. She simply knelt down and gathered the shattered pieces in her palms, holding them like fragile ash. The hallway had gone silent. A few students recorded on their phones. No one stepped in. No one ever did. But Arya wasn't defenseless. Not really. What no one knew, not the bullies, not even her teachers, was that Arya had spent the last 5 years training in martial arts. Her mother had enrolled her after a violent incident with a stranger when she was younger. Learn to protect yourself, her mom used to say, but never let your heart become hard. Arya had listened. She had trained in silence. Earned her black belt in secret. And she had never raised a hand against anyone. Until now. "I warned you before," Arya said quietly, still kneeling. "Don't touch my mother's necklace." The girls laughed again. "What are you gonna do? Cry about it?" No. She wasn't going to cry. Arya stood up. What followed happened in seconds. The hallway exploded in gasps. Madison reached out to shove her, reflexively, instinctively. But Arya blocked the move with ease. A powerful side kick landed squarely in Madison's ribs, sending her crashing to the lockers. Rachel tried to grab Arya from behind, but Arya twisted and swept her legs from under her with perfect form. Tori hesitated, then screamed and charged like a wild animal. Arya sidestepped and landed a clean, controlled punch to her shoulder, knocking her down, but not permanently hurting her. It was precise. Intentional. The crowd stood in shock, mouths open, phones shaking. And then the screams came, not from Arya, but from the bullies, who now groaned on the floor, holding their ribs and arms. Someone ran for the nurse. A teacher rushed in, panicked. The principal was called. The police came. The footage went viral. But Arya didn't run. She stood silently, holding the broken locket in one hand. In the principal's office, Arya sat across from the administration, her expression calm, almost still. Her foster dad, Mr. Cohen, sat beside her, stunned by the call he had just received. She was defending herself, Mr. Cohen said firmly. Check the cameras. Those girls attacked her. They've been harassing her for months. The principal nodded slowly. The footage supports your story. We're suspending the other girls indefinitely. Arya, you won't face punishment. But we'd like to offer counseling. That was a lot for any student to endure. Arya nodded politely, but she didn't need therapy. She needed peace. She needed closure. That night, she sat in her room, the locket pieces laid out on a white cloth. With a pair of tweezers and tiny tools, she began repairing what she could. A few hours passed. The silver was scratched. The chain was gone. But the tiny picture inside, of her mother holding her as a baby, was still intact. That's all that mattered. The next day, when she returned to school, something had changed. The whispers were different now. Respectful. Awed. Kids who had never spoken to her before gave her nods, quiet greetings, even apologies. But Arya didn't care for the attention. She walked through the hall with quiet dignity, her repaired locket close to her chest. Madison, Rachel, and Tori never came back. Their parents withdrew them from school and sent them away. Rumors spread. Some said Arya had broken bones. Others exaggerated the fight. But the truth was simpler: Arya didn't attack. She defended. Weeks later, Arya stood in her dojo, dressed in black, leading a self-defense class for younger girls. Her sensei watched from the side with pride. One of the girls raised her hand. "Why do you wear that necklace even though it's broken?" Arya smiled gently. "Because it reminds me of someone strong. Someone who told me to fight for what's right, but with honor." And then she added, "Strength isn't just about kicking or punching. It's about knowing when to stand up and when to walk away." The room was silent. And then, one by one, the girls began to nod.